Food has become so unaffordable in this city that even people employed with full-time jobs can no longer buy groceries. That's according to a new report by Feed Scarborough Food Bank, which has seen a startling 112% increase in visits since last year.
112%.
The demand for food banks has skyrocketed right across the city. And a new report released by Feed Scarborough is digging into why, uncovering troubling stats. Almost a third of their clients are employed.
Think about it. You're working 40 hours a week, but you still cannot afford food, which is a basic human right.
More than half of those employed reported low income as their reason for accessing a food bank. What does that say to you?
That says that we have precarious employment, number one. That says that our housing and other expenses are so high that they are often food is somewhere where they compromise.
But some don't even have the option to work. 72% of Feed Scarborough clients have been in Canada for less than a year, like Brigitte, who arrived to Canada from Uganda 3 months ago and is still waiting for a work permit.
I can't pay the bills. I don't have money. I don't have any income.
She can't even work because she's waiting for a piece of paper.
Yeah, I'm still surviving.
She blames stress and a lack of food for a miscarriage she endured when she first arrived. She's now volunteering at the food bank while she waits.
The situations I've passed through, the things I've passed through, have been a lot. And at times I regret, I'm like, why did I live? I would have stayed there, but...
She's probably better off in Uganda.
Say, okay, you have to face it.
Imagine that as well.
And life has to move on. If someone wants to work, they should allow us to work immediately.
The report also found 95% of food bank users were not born in Canada, and 89% are living in rental properties. Advocates believe a lack of affordable housing is one of the primary reasons why people need to access food banks, which have become what's being described as a Band-Aid solution.
You've got basement apartments here in Scarborough going for $2,000. Median income is something like $39,000 here. It's really, really hard for people to be able to afford living. There's some really hard decisions.
Math doesn't add up.
Should I pay rent? Should I pay for food on the table?
Advocates are calling on all levels of government to address the disparities. We're told no political leaders have responded to this particular report just yet.
Imagine having to choose between paying rent or buying food. Well, this is currently happening in Canada, guys. Open your eyes. This is happening in Trudeau's Canada because he's been in power for the last 8 years. You know, him and his party, they don't give a shit about immigrants. To them, all they are is a ticket to get reelected. And I'm so happy that the immigrants are looking at it differently now. Sort of like a revolution against the Liberal Party. Right? Who gives a shit if they can't afford or they don't have access to affordable housing or food? A basic human right. So how does the government, Trudeau's government respond? Let's bring in more. Let's double down. Canada aims to welcome 465,000 new permanent residents in 2023. 485,000 in 2024 and 500,000 in 2025. Listen, it doesn't matter if we can't, it doesn't matter if we can't provide basic human needs to the immigrants that we bring in, as long as we're doing something about climate change, right, guys? This is Trudeau's Canada.
I want to know how the hell people in Canada are even living. I generally consider myself a positive person. I'm like resourceful, but some stuff happened around the property and like, well, I know I'll never truly be homeless. Like I have family to live with and, you know, like I have options. Like I'm luckier than a lot of other people, but how the hell is anyone existing in Canada? Like I feel trapped and like I just got a good job. I started in September, but even with that job, it pays less than 40 grand a year. And it's a job that requires like education, and even on that job, like I still can't do shit. I can't buy anything. I can't afford the rent these days. Like I'm just feeling so much despair, and I know I'm normally like really, really positive, but I'm just like, how is everyone else, and are you okay? Because the answer is probably no. And I know I'm lucky. I don't have kids. I have like good family that will support me, but I feel like I can't stay here, but I can't move anywhere else, because anywhere else I move to, I'm gonna be charging, like, the landlords are just gonna charge me like $2,500 a month in rent, like, unless I move into the middle of literally nowhere where there are 0 jobs, and I'm just feeling really overwhelmed, and, like, I don't know. There's a part of me that just wants to say, F it, and just get a whole bunch of credit cards and just travel and just, like, get out of Canada, because, like, I know it's bad everywhere. I really do. But I don't know. I just, at 33 years old, like, I was really hoping that I could at the very least afford, you know, a small house. I don't want 3,100 square feet bullshit. I just want something small, 500 square feet, even less. And yet, it's so fucking expensive. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Canada's housing crisis is about to get even worse. Check this out. Immigration Minister Mark Miller has just announced that we could see our immigration targets increased despite being in the middle of a massive housing crunch. These new targets are being announced on November 1st, and Mark has stated that we are not in any position to lower them by any stretch of the imagination. This is coming at a time when our housing market is so broken that we are seeing basement apartments in Brampton renting out for $3,000 a month. People are even willing to live in boiler rooms, with somebody putting a mattress in their boiler room, putting it up for rent, and actually receiving a lot of interest. What's even more concerning is we are way behind on our new home building targets, as 2/3 of home builders say they are building fewer units. In fact, about 22% of Canadian home builders have said they are canceling projects entirely. Canada already has the lowest housing supply per capita in the G7, and things just keep going downhill. Estimates from last year claim we were short about 650,000 homes in Ontario, and as builders cancel projects and our population keeps booming, this number is just going to keep getting worse. I really have to question if the government is setting people up to be homeless. What do you guys think?
Okay, so I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and for those of you who don't know, Canada has like a serious fucked up inflation problem right now. I just got back from doing groceries, and I have $70 worth of groceries on my table right now, and I genuinely don't even know what I purchased that made it to $70. I had a fucking mini breakdown to my parents the other week, and I started like crying, like tears. They came in because I was doing a budget, and they were like, "How is it?" And I was like, tears. I'm working like 3 jobs right now. Like, I got out of university like last year in December, and I have been fucking grinding it out ever since, just because the cost of living, and I'm not even really saving that. I'm not saving anything really, but the cost of living is outrageous in Canada. And it's just so, I was telling my parents, like, it's just so frustrating that like you do all the right things, you go to university, and then you come out, you get a job, whatever, and you can barely fucking afford rent. I talk about it with my friends all the time, but we're just fucking sticking together right now because it's brutal out there.
So I've been seeing this trend on TikTok where people are starting to come on here and air their grievances about what life is like in Canada. And it's a lot of young people, but there's also some older people in there as well that are just having a hard time. Like, gas is outrageous. The cost of living, like groceries, rent, people can't get mortgages. There's people saying, I went to school, or I work in trades, I'm working overtime, whatever it might be, can't move out of my parents' house, I will never qualify for a mortgage. Like, it's crazy. And there are 2 sides of the fence on this entire situation, because there are the people that 100% get what you're saying and feel it too, and can see it. They can see the homelessness rising. They can see the addictions getting worse. They can see everything seems like it's getting a little bit worse, or actually significantly worse. And then you have the people that, for whatever god-awful reason, are like in complete denial. And I've seen these videos being circulated on like other social media platforms like Twitter, and the responses are crazy. And a majority of the time, if you go to those like people's Twitter accounts, they support the Liberal government. So naturally, they feel like it's like an attack on them if someone is like just critical, even in the slightest, about what they're seeing. And a lot of these videos, no one is talking about politicians. Like, no one is saying, this is because of Justin Trudeau, not that I've seen anyway, or this is because of so-and-so, or this is because of so-and-so. They're just frustrated. And then you have people being like, well, that's not a federal issue, it's a provincial issue. Listen, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like, I care because I work in policy and obviously I understand the difference between federal and provincial, but for the most part, nobody cares. All they know is that life is unbelievably expensive right now and they're never going to get ahead, and that's what they legitimately think. And then you have people that support the current government coming in and being like, that's Doug Ford's issue, when number one, most of us, like, not most of us, but a lot of us don't even live in Ontario. And they're just like, that's not Justin Trudeau's fault. That's a provincial issue. It doesn't matter. When you have these politicians standing up in the House of Commons or going on their social medias or whatever it might be, and they're like, life has never been better for Canadians. Canadians are doing better than they ever have before. And, you know, we lifted this many Canadians out of poverty. It's like, where? And then they're sharing graphs, which I know some of you love those graphs, about how, like, Canada is up here on the index chart. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, okay, but it still sucks. And my favorite is when they say, it could be a lot worse elsewhere. Okay, that helps. And then there's people just straight up saying, like, I have never run into any of these people struggling. Why are they only on TikTok? Where are you living? Yeah, I don't even know what the point of this rant is, other than the fact that your feelings are valid and I'm here to acknowledge them.
So I moved back home.
$41.70. Between the higher cost of living and higher interest rates meant to wrangle inflation, it appears many Canadians have racked up costly debt.
Half of my paycheck is going into like paying off the credit card.
It's just ridiculous. Housing is too expensive, food is too expensive, childcare is too expensive.
Now, a warning from the National Housing Agency. Canadian households have the highest debt levels in the G7. If a recession or other unexpected crisis takes hold, the CMHC says families and the entire economy will be more vulnerable.
If people lose their jobs, they can't service their debt, their mortgage, and that leads to a major problem.
Canada's housing crisis is a central factor here. 3/4 of household debt is tied to mortgages. The CMHC says any attempt to address this looming problem should start with making housing more affordable.
Governments need to get together with the private sector to build more housing, get the supply side of housing working.
Still, it's also a call to Canadians to get their debt levels under control. But it's a difficult task for those who can barely afford the necessities.
If you've renewed your mortgage at any point in the last year, your housing costs are a lot higher, transportation is higher, so it's all of those expenses going up far faster than income.
This bankruptcy advisor says it's been his busiest month in years.
What is the harsh reality in Canada?
Not everyone's as nice as they seem.
What do you mean?
Well, Canadians are known to be nice, but they're not very nice. That's all. That's the hard
Where are you
reality.
from?
I'm from Taiwan.
And how long have you been here?
30-something years.
Oh,
yeah.
You can say.
These days, you know, rising prices, that seems to be something that everybody's struggling with.
Is it hard for you to live here, to afford living here?
So far, I've managed to make ends meet, but, you know, every month prices go higher, so yeah, it's definitely something that comes up.
Oh boy, cost of living keeps rising and prices don't rise to match it. It's a pretty harsh reality.
Are you from here?
I am, yeah.
It's very expensive because everyone wants to live in Toronto or Vancouver. So yeah, it's just extremely expensive to live here.
Oh God, yeah, it's expensive. It's extortionate.